You've probably seen animal rights protests like these.
Vegans, silly vegans, with leather shoes on, leather shoes.
I decided to investigate the more illicit side of the movement.
I'm prepared to do anything for the animals, even if it means going to jail. There often is a fear for my life.
Farmers say they're being targeted.
This animal rights movement is just emotionally destroying. I just don't get to participate in illegal behaviour. I don't get to do that when I don't agree with something.
For the record, I'm vegan, and 500,000 Australians are too. Not all of them are activists, but a small group is leading some very public protests. I wanted to find out just how far some activists will go, how it impacts farmers, and does any of this make a difference?
Hi. Hello. Do you remember me? I saved you. We have liberated at least 200 animals. We're going into these places and saving as many animals as we can and relocating them to a better place.
Sophie's been an animal rights activist for 7 years. Today we're coming with her to visit some chickens at a secret location. Was it strictly legal the way you got the hens?
No, the way that we got them was not legal at all.
Sophie does public protests against using animals, but she's also involved in what activists call open rescue. She goes to farms and takes animals that would have been used for food, like these hens that were in the caged egg industry.
Last time I held her, she was so unwell and it was in a factory farm. So to hold her in this situation is just so beautiful. When we first rescued them, they had no feathers. Their crest was white and pale and floppy. You look so healthy now.
Are the farmers aware that you're taking the animals?
There are so many animals in these sheds that it kind of would be impossible for them to notice.
Don't the farmers have a right to be doing this?
Just because something is legal does not mean that it is moral, and it does not make it okay to do.
In 2022, there were over 21 million chickens in Australia's egg industry. Growing up surrounded by pets, Sophie says she's always loved animals. She became a vegan at 21 and now devotes her free time to activism.
Typically we wait until the sun goes down and then we will load everything up and go.
Sophie's filmed plenty of her outings, but she's not allowed to show us because in New South Wales, it's illegal to share covert footage taken on private property. What we can show are activists in Victoria who are doing the same thing on farms there. Just FYI, doing this kind of thing can lead to fines and prison time.
When we have a plan to liberate an animal from a farm, there's a lot of anxiety. Are we going to get caught? Are we going to get hurt? Being inside those sheds, it feels like a nightmare. The very first thing that I notice is how horrific it smells. It's mostly the noises, that really stick with me. There's only so many animals that we can save when we do these rescues. And, I still remember faces of animals that I have left behind in these places. So the animals that we liberate, they go to a loving home, far, far away. Welcome to the world.
How do you feel about people producing meat or animal products?
They've been raised this way and they're just doing their job. They don't see it that we are liberating and saving a life. They see it that we are stealing their property.
So what do farmers make of this kind of activism? Right now we're on our way to meet an egg farmer. We asked if we could meet her on the farm, but she changed her mind last minute, so we're going to a vegetable farm instead.
We got a number of social media threats and said maybe filming on the farm probably isn't the best way forwards. We have been broken into a number of times through animal activism, And we have had a number of death threats. Someone saying to me they're going to lock me in a cage. Today's interview is acknowledging the fact that I'm putting a bullseye to my business.
Danielle is the third generation to run her family's caged egg farm. She's also the vice president of the Victorian Farmers Federation. She remembers the night an alarm went off.
My uncle lives on the farm. He went out and then realised there was a break-in. The doors were jarred open, the fence had been cut. He'd called the police and they had found the young ladies on the farm. These people were there to, in their words, rescue the birds. I'm not entirely sure what they were going to achieve with 2 people and 30,000 chickens. It's really confronting for us as a family, and this is exactly why I won't live on our farm, because I've got 2 really small children and I don't want them to grow up in a highly stressful environment that is volatile and could end up them being harmed in their own backyard.
Some say they feel unsafe when strangers are trespassing on their property. What are your thoughts on that?
We're not out here trying to terrorise your family. We're not out here trying to take away your livelihood. We just want you to stop hurting animals.
I know it's hard for people to believe me when I say this, but the animal welfare is absolutely something we care about.
With animal welfare standards changing, we wanted people to see exactly what we're doing.
Farms need to stick to Australia's national animal welfare standards, but Sophie says she's seen poor conditions on the farms she's visited. These are hens Sophie took on one of her outings.
Oh, darling. See where their beaks have been cut off, debeaked, most likely with no anaesthetic.
Beak treatment essentially is like an infrared laser. It's almost like, when you cut your nails and it doesn't necessarily hurt. And that's done because unfortunately chickens cannibalise each other in flock environments.
We're seeing things such as hens being confined in small spaces.
So our particular hens in our enriched cages are given 750 square centimetres per bird. They absolutely don't get to go outside.
When we go into free-range farms, they are often incredibly sick.
If you really think there's a problem, just report it. Don't take matter into your own hands just like you wouldn't in any other business.
Australia's government recently endorsed phasing out caged eggs by 2036 to align with new poultry welfare standards.
It is disgusting to me that we are allowing animal rights groups to influence policy decisions.
So what will this mean for your farm?
So we'll phase out, absolutely. I've got zero intention of running a free-range farm.
Some farmers believe there's an ethical middle ground. Scott is a lamb farmer who says free-range farming is the way to go.
They're out in the paddocks, roaming around, generally not getting disturbed by anybody. I had a farmer have a chat to me one day and he said he sat down and worked out how long his animals were under stress for each year, and he estimated that to be 8 minutes for the year. A lot better that I would consider than your average household pet.
What are your thoughts on ethical farming?
I don't believe that there is an ethical way to use and exploit an animal that cannot consent.
If someone thought I was doing the wrong thing to my animals, I would like to know about it. And I don't feel that trespassing onto the property is the way to go about it.
Having unknown people walking around on farms could also have unintended side effects for the animals.
You might bring in bugs, you might bring in dirt, and you can end up with really, really sick animals, or with an entire flock or herd end up culled.
In recent years, many states have cracked down on farm trespass by upping the penalties, including fines for individuals and groups, and even jail time. The former Deputy Premier of New South Wales has said farmers need to be protected.
With the activism that's been happening, the trespass that's been happening, and what I would call the terror they have caused on farming families and on businesses.
We would like to see harsher penalties for people who simply are breaking the law continuously.
So far, Sophie hasn't been arrested for breaking the law.
Every time I do these actions, I'm prepared to potentially not go home that night.
Peter is researching Australia's animal rights movement. He says it's hard to estimate how many militant activists there are, but they are in the minority.
99.9% of activism that occurs in Australia is completely legal, democratic activity that we encourage and wish our citizens to do. Letter writing, having a protest on the street, signing a petition.
Peter's research shows Australia's animal activists are involved in less illegal activity than those in other countries.
What we found within the 25 countries with the most animal activism within them, that Australia ranked 19th. Which is interesting, paradoxically, given in recent decades we've created a lot of laws around this issue. The question is always going to be, will this prevent this activity? Does this come at a real threat to democracy?
Veganism is growing in Australia, but those eating meat are eating more. The average Australian consumes around 100 kilos of meat each year, and half our red meat is exported. This large-scale meat production has become a target for activists.
7 people accused of sneaking into a Benalla abattoir and chaining themselves to machinery.
I was recently a part of a big slaughterhouse shutdown in Melbourne to spread awareness for the horrific atrocities that pigs are facing in Australia.
Following these campaigns, Victoria has launched an inquiry into the welfare of pigs.
One of the 3 big slaughterhouses that we were investigating chose to close themselves down.
Australian Pork, the peak body for that industry, told us over 90% of Australia's pig herd are audited each year to ensure high welfare standards are being met. What sort of impact has the animal rights movement had in Australia?
Treatment of animals is better today than it was in the past. Millions of animals' lives are that little bit better. On the other hand, if you talk to someone who maybe has a rights perspective, they might say, we haven't been very successful at all. We're all much happier to continue to use animals, and in a sense, it's the equivalent of greenwashing.
Vegans, the silly vegans. Silly vegans. With leather shoes on, leather shoes.
Farms and abattoirs aren't the only targets of Sophie's activism. Like many others, she's trying to convince everyday Australians to go vegan.
The reason we're in our lingerie is because it's very attention grabbing, it gets people stopping. If we were on the beach and I was in a bikini, would you have a problem with that? What's the difference?
I do have it, you should wear shorts.
We have been assaulted before, we have had things thrown at us before.
Not everyone is happy with their message, including this dairy farm.
I think they'd much rather not be forcibly impregnated over and over again and have their babies taken away from them.
We're gonna agree to disagree.
In the end, it seems like farmers and activists might never truly see eye to eye, and only time will tell what happens to animal agriculture. With more people going vegan and giving up meat, what does that mean for the future of your livelihood?
There's still plenty of people who are starving in the world who need to be fed. I would be more like to reach out to those people who enjoy eating their meat and to reassure them that Australian lamb and beef and pork is all grown ethically. People are free to have their views on what they should eat, but they shouldn't impose them on other people.
They have nothing but time to commit to destroying an industry. We're a little bit busy actually feeding a community.
I think my activism has had a pretty positive impact for the animals. I basically am putting my life on the line in a sense, and I'm willing to keep doing that.
If you like that video and want to see more, subscribe to The Feed's YouTube channel.